All right. So about incentives. Right now, there's an article that came out like yesterday that said that every year, I think it's like 100 billion spent on uh like fossil fuel or extraction, like fossil fuels industry subsidies. So it's probably billions of dollars easily, we could say, from the United States going towards that. And why? Because we need oil, just like we need Monsanto. And how come we need oil? Well, because it's this cycle. It's this cyclical thing. It's like we have to give these subsidies to the oil companies. If we didn't need oil, if cars were more efficient, if we had more green technology, we wouldn't need it and they wouldn't get the subsidies, then they wouldn't be able to compete. They've been sitting there like maximizing their profit via the supply demand curves or whatever, and looking at how they can have less efficient automobiles, more a need to drive further, and so they get city planners and they get they maintain a dominance within the vehicle market, um, that you know uh, there's just going to be so much more gasoline cars being made all the time. Not nothing. Uh, since there's like 90% 90% of cars out there that just get 30 miles per gallon. 30 miles per gallon passes. If 90% of cars out there got 50 to 60 miles per gallon, then they would have to do that to compete. But it's a complacency and it's just a satisfiedness. And the oil companies, at least if they're not um, working with car manufacturers to keep the hybrids out, to keep the other alternative, you know, means out of creating more efficient vehicles, to keep the demand up, then at least it's very, very convenient for them, this fact. And because by having threefold increased demand than would be if we took advantage of everything that we could do to make things efficient, which of course we could probably do 20, we could probably 20-fold. We could probably save 90% of the oil that we use this year if we plan better, if we um, had these technologies emerge, if we had better systems and better transportation networks, we could save 80% of the gas and oil that we use this year, keep it in the ground, put it in storage, put it for emergency use, whatever. Mostly leave it in the ground and for the future and whatever. So it at least it's very, very, very convenient for them. And these incentives that should be going to these other industries remain going to fossil fuel industries. And we have to, go to these remote locations and dig deeper and deeper and compromise and threaten more wild nature and water supplies and so forth. Um, and also put a lot more carbon in the atmosphere or whatever, right? So our incentive structures can't continue to function like this. And even though incentivize may not be officially a word, incentivize is a very important word. And how things are incentivized, how things are de-incentivized, whatever. Um, this is a main one. You say you can't change how the tax law works, how these people can have loopholes and basically do all this tax evasion. You can't change tax laws because that would be stealing. It would be stealing from the rich to tax them unfairly. Meanwhile, they have yachts and second houses. Meanwhile, these people turn the other way, turn a blind eye to the environment. They turn a blind eye and charge people, 10, 100 times more than they have to for drugs and for medical costs. And that's how they have the $1 million house. And I don't feel sorry for them if their second $1 million house has to go, or if they can't have the boat and the second, 500 or 5,000 square foot home or something, maybe 10. Um, Meanwhile, for my, 600, 900 square foot apartment, I got to pay half my monthly salary. Um, the incentives for everything are backwards. In politics is really the only place we can really turn. And instead of finding efficacy and usefulness and trading our time being politically concerned, we find ourselves being apathetic. Why do we find ourselves being apathetic? Because of the uselessness of our efforts, and we keep getting this runarounds, we keep getting lip service, and that's all it is lip service to important environmental issues and important issues that we get with the mainstream, the neoliberal Democrats. And you know, it's not surprising that half people don't vote. It's not surprising that all the apathy and lack of empathy out there that people have. It's not surprising of the confusion and how much the redundancy just numbs us and makes us tune out, and how much people out there are trying to rile people up and get people motivated for nothing. It's really just their own desire to build something related to their own self, their own company or something. So, but trying to stick to incentives. Incentives are everything. You can incentivize everything. You can incentivize. They're just not handling this plastic well. They obviously hadn't planned and don't provide for the plastic to be maintained, and our garbage island's gonna double again, in size. And so, these things like measures for either creating biodegradable products, hopefully not from oil and plastic, because they're obviously toxic usually. Anyway, coming up with biodegradable or reusable or recyclable or whatever, and making the systems where we can recycle them more efficient and more complete. These are like so urgent, such a pressing matter. Saving the bees, saving the reefs, whatever it takes. Just whatever it takes. I'm sorry, DuPont, Monsanto. I'm sorry, shipping industries, but go back to freaking sailboats. Make electric powered ships. Use airships with hydrogen. Figure out. We need to figure something else out. We need to save the whales. Save ourselves. The environment's health is our health. Incentivizing its destruction, turning the other way, while these cyclical forces happen where we're being entirely inefficient and overly consumptive of these non-renewables, while we flood the oceans and everywhere with plastics and microfibers of plastics, and while we do things unintelligently and poorly like this, while we poorly planned and poorly regulated, and science just to make people bucks and not to be good, intelligent, optimal, ideal science. This thing's running amok. Going to produce pretty negative effects pretty fast, and I think it's already 100 years underway. I think the lead that we put into the environment is kind of like something like it's a similar example, and this is like far more pervasive. This plastics issue and other things. It's not the only dangerous thing out there. So the Democratic Party just offers very little hope and very little redemptive. Despite what they might tell you and how horrible they say Trump is, of course, in proportion with how little substance they have to just point at Trump. In proportion with how little they're actually going to offer us, they have to focus on Trump. they criticize him in the wrong way. They focus on him in the wrong way, not by criticizing the actual fundamental things, but by talking about loose, little fickle things, and trying to blow it up on overhype, over exaggerate it, and make stories out of nowhere, and when there's really things that suck about him and the Republicans, and then instead of just saying they're bad, we need to get rid of them. We need to put real counter proposals. Say this is actually what we would do. This is fundamentally different. That this is what we're going to do. That's kind of more concrete. The Democratic Party's energy friendly, non-renewable energy friendly, pharmaceutical company friendly, for-profit prison friendly, bank friendly Democrats. They just don't do it for me. So I would never vote for Biden. I never vote for Hillary. I would never vote for Obama again after we see what he did and what he was about. Citibank boy, bailing out bank boy, Obama. There's just too many people that are still duped. That are still have the wool pulled over their eyes by this Democratic Party structure. That's that they can put forward these candidates, these horrible candidates, and the people the neoliberals, the people who are doing better, who are more well off, they don't care. They don't care if it goes back to the Republicans. They'll be fine. They won't be hit as hard. So they really have nothing to lose. So it's either their way or the highway. It's either them or nobody. It's either them or Trump. But then they tell us how bad Trump is and you can't have Trump. Well, yeah, in proportion to the way that you lack substance in any legitimate argument, yeah, that's what you say. There's just people who are fundamentally confused and fundamentally have been tricked and fooled and duped in power in the Democratic Party. Did they think that this is the right way forward? Did they think that somehow this all works out for them? Somehow this all plays out what bodes well for them? There's a fundamental dislogic, illogical aspect, illogical thing going on here. If you side with the Republicans and side with fracking and with insurance companies and these lobbying and these people who've gotten your ears as a leader in the Democratic Party, there is no greater good to that. There is no there's just nothing. There's nothing actually for the people, for the voters. And you might as well just be a Republican who is like, hey, if you can't afford insurance, whatever, tough luck. I got my own and whatever. Republicans say they want to help people, like, they care a lot about abortion and things. Sometimes they say they want to help people, but I think it's the Democrats that actually want to help people. Don't lose sight of that. And the fundamental mislogic or illogic is that we have to discuss the divide. You have to discuss the opposing issues and the disagreements amongst the Democrats and the clear divide, the clear schisming and fracturing of the party. Discuss it, address it honestly, and if you don't, then we're not gonna come together to beat Trump. So that's the illogic, and it's either an illogical, irrational position, or it's that they don't care. They're not worried if Trump actually does remain in office. So either way, it's hypocritical and preposterous and absurd and ridiculous.